Few things in history have been as fascinating and as strange as sideshows, or as promoters call them, the freak show. It was a time when people born with weird conditions didn't get a big name or empathy. They got a stage, a spotlight, and a cage with velvet curtains. From bearded ladies to human skeletons, these are the 15 creepy circus freaks you won't believe existed. Number 15, Robert Melvin. Well, Robert didn't have two literal faces, but he came awfully close. He was born in Missouri in 1920 and suffered from neurofibromatosis, which is an extremely rare disorder that caused his right side to swell with bulbous tumors, giving him the appearance of two drastically different profiles. In 1949, he joined the sideshows of Coney Island as the Man with Two Faces, and later toured with Royal American shows and the James E. Straits Carnival. To audiences, he was part horror and part Marvel, often dubbed the Modern Elephant Man. But Robert's life wasn't just about creepy performance. He found love, married, and raised a family while traveling from one state fair to the next. When not working on the stage, he did bookkeeping to make ends meet. He even appeared in cult horror films like The Sentinel and documentaries like Being Different. Eventually, he settled in Lancaster, Missouri, where neighbors knew him not as a circus freak, but a friend, a performer on stage, a family man off it, and a legend earned. Number 14, the alligator-skinned man. Born in Florida with ichthyosis, which made his body cracked and scaly, Emmett never chose the spotlight, but it found him. His appearance steered him toward sideshow stages while still young. On tour, he met Priscilla Lawther, who had hypertrichosis and was known as the Monkey Girl. The two married in 1938, becoming a lifelong act dubbed the world's strangest married couple. For decades, they toured relentlessly, drawing crowds curious about their appearance. Behind the painted posters and long stares, there was a steady love story. They endured the death of a daughter, never drifting. Emmett passed in 1995. Priscilla followed in 2001. While their careers were built on spectacle, their life together ran deeper. Trust, resilience, and rare tenderness in a world too eager to exploit. Among all the acts that came and went, theirs held something genuine. They weren't just a banner or a booth. They were the heartbeat behind the curtain. Number 13, the Devil Child. He was billed as the most ghastly freak of nature ever born to live. There is no name or backstory. The posters called him the Devil Child, and that alone drew curious crowds to circus tents across the country. What did they see? Some said his body was twisted, malformed beyond words. Others claimed he never spoke, only stared with wide, unblinking eyes. Rumors told of clawed hands, razor teeth, and skin like ash. But truth blurred fast in the freak show world. The managers gave no history or origin, just mystery wrapped in horror. Some believed he was an orphan abandoned at birth, and others whispered about secret experiments. One thing's for sure, he vanished without a trace of a real name. Only fragments in old circus flyers and a few scribbled diary entries from traveling showmen. Maybe he was real, or maybe he wasn't. But once people saw him, they never forgot. Whatever he was, he didn't seem entirely human. Number 12. Alfred Littell. If you ever caught a man crawling on stage in a fur suit, barking at his handler's heels, chances are you saw Alfred. He didn't speak or have to. He scratched, chirped, and pranced, perfectly mimicking the animals he spent his life observing. Dogs, parrots, monkeys, even ostriches. He studied them until their movement lived in his bones. It started small, in church halls, a few laughs, then vaudeville, then theaters across the country. The act was strange, but it stuck. Littell would bark, and someone else, often his wife, would sing. They kept the rhythm going for decades. When vaudeville fizzled out, he took the act overseas. Australia, odd films, anywhere that still had a stage. Always playing the mutt or the bird. He performed well into his 60s. When he died in 1951, there was no ceremony. His widow tossed the dog suit, but a few photos survived. Just enough to prove he wasn't some tall tale. Just enough to remember him right. Number 11. The Double-Bodied Man. Well, Jean Libera wasn't just born, he arrived with someone else in this world. Attached to his torso was his parasitic twin, who was later called Jacques. It couldn't speak, but it moved. X-rays showed a small skull nestled inside Jean's abdomen about 6 inches across. Jacques didn't function alone, but he wasn't dead tissue either. It was an in-between existence, part brother, part burden. Jean didn't hide it. He performed as the double-bodied man, and audiences paid to see what nature had fused together. Yet behind the spectacle was something few expected: peace. Jean married, had 4 healthy children, and built a private life once the applause faded. Doctors poked and studied him for years, fascinated by the twins' strange persistence. But Jean never chased pity. He just lived, shared space with a shadow that never left and never tried to escape it. He wasn't the freak. He was the man who made peace with something no one else could understand. That takes more than endurance. It takes grace. Number 10. Grizzly Adams. The TV version had the beard and the bear. The real man had both, plus scars and stories to match. John Adams, distantly related to the presidential family, began humbly in Medway as a shoemaker. But the 1830s lured him into traveling menagerie shows, where he trapped and trained wild animals across New England. At one point, he was mauled by a tiger so badly that he had to vanish for years. Then came the gold rush. Adams headed west in 1849, not for gold, but for the wilderness. There, he captured and trained grizzlies, naming his first Lady Washington. By the 1850s, he was putting on frontier-style animal shows across the West. He opened the Mountaineer Museum in San Francisco, filled with live bears, oddities, and taxidermy marvels. In 1860, he joined P.T. Barnum's Circus, touring the East Coast. But by then, old injuries were catching up. Later that same year, Adams passed away, rugged to the end. Number 9. The Three-Legged He-She. George Francis Ethinger was born into the blur between gender and form. With a parasitic conjoined twin, George came into the world with 3 legs, 3 buttocks, 2 stomachs, and both male and female anatomy. In the early 1900s, that meant instant sideshow material. Billed as May Joe, the child toured with Buffalo Bill's Wild West and Pawnee Bill's Far East shows under the management of Bolus and Startzel. Ohio authorities eventually tried to shut down the local exhibitions, but George's image had already spread. Through adolescence, it's unclear whether they continued performing or the family just sold photographs. What's known is that May Joe also went by names like Joe Pearl, Josephine Pearl, and Elsie Lynn, adapting identities as easily as a costume change. A walking contradiction of the era's rigid norms, May Joe represented a mystery that neither science nor society could comfortably label. Number 8. Maria Spelterini. Maria Spelterini didn't care about applause. She craved the edge. In 1876, as America marked its 100th birthday, she became the only woman to tightrope across the Niagara Gorge. Then she did it again, with baskets strapped to her feet. Again, wrists and ankles chained. Again, blindfolded. The crowd gasped. She never blinked. Long before that, she'd already conquered Europe, circuses in Russia, France, and beyond. In 1877, while performing a bicycle stunt in Argentina, she fell hard. She survived and kept going. By the early 1900s, her trail fades. No one knows much about her final years. She died in 1912. Maria didn't chase claps or roses. She chased gravity and dared it to flinch. She never looked for a spotlight, yet she moved through it like it belonged to her. No other woman has ever crossed that gorge, and no one, before or since, has done it quite like Maria, fearless, relentless, and entirely on her own terms. Number 7. Johan K. Pettersson. Standing at 7 feet 8, Johan Pettersson from Iceland was among the tallest men ever born in his country. His childhood was typical, until 15, when a sudden growth spurt altered his life forever. By 17, he was reportedly strong enough to lift small vehicles, though his size brought constant pain and reduced mobility. Steady work became elusive, so Johan turned to performing. He started in European vaudeville, then worked in a shipyard during World War II. In 1948, he joined Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, where he was billed as the Viking Giant. His clothes, furniture, even his trailer, had to be custom-made. He even appeared in Prehistoric Women, a cult film of its time. After retiring in 1963, he returned to Iceland, living quietly until a fall took his life in 1984. Today, he's remembered not just for his towering figure, but for the calm dignity and gentleness he carried through a world that never quite fit him back. Number 6. Peter Lobengula. Peter never belonged in a freak show, but the world insisted otherwise. He claimed to be the son of Lobengula, the last king of the Matabele, and performed as Prince Lobengula in early 1900s England. In 1899, he appeared in Savage South Africa, a staged colonial spectacle designed to feed British fantasies about Africa. But the performance wasn't what caused the scandal. It was his engagement to a white British woman, Florence Kitty Jewell. That union set the press ablaze. He later acted in Major Wilson's Last Stand, portraying his own father. The show ended, and the papers moved on. Peter faded from headlines, took up mining in Salford, and lived out his final years quietly. He died in 1913. Curiosity and racism shaped his public life, neither of which he asked for. Peter wasn't a curiosity. He wasn't a prince in a tent. He was a man, misunderstood, misplaced, and forgotten by a society more interested in the costume. Number 5. Aggie and her lions. She'd walk in barefoot, skirt swaying, bodice tight, and casually feed raw meat to full-grown lions while gliding between them. Aggie didn't just perform in the cage, she ruled it. She began by training dogs in a small New Mexico show, but ambition clawed at her heels. Her lion act soon headlined across North America: Barnum, Hagenbeck Wallace, Luna Park. One review said it plainly: "She holds the room." That part never changed, even as everything else did. In 1897, Omaha, when officers came to confiscate her cats, she calmly threatened to release them. They backed off. But tragedy came later. Her fiancé was mauled to death in a baggage car. Some whispered it was jealousy. No one asked Aggie. She kept moving. By 1930, she worked in Cuban tents with 3 sickly cats and a worn-out dress. By 32, even they were gone. She faded into quiet jobs, cleaning houses. The applause stopped, but her myth still roams. Number 4. Hugo Zacchini. Hugo Zacchini didn't just fly, he made it art. The first human cannonball to launch using compressed air, he wasn't fired from some cartoonish contraption. It was precise, calculated, and built by his father. Though born in Peru during a family tour, his roots ran deep in Italian tradition. By 12, he'd studied art in Rome. Later, he earned a master's in New York. But it was the skies that called. After debuting the Cannon Act in Egypt, John Ringling saw him perform in Denmark and signed him on the spot. Zacchini was fluent in multiple languages, sculpted in his spare time, and even taught art between tours. Off stage, He made headlines when he sued a TV station for airing his entire act, and won. It set a legal precedent still referenced today. He died on his 77th birthday in 1975. But what stays isn't the lawsuit or the degrees. It's the image. A man, airborne, somewhere between science and spectacle. Number 3. Barnum's unicorn. In 1871, Barnum unveiled his latest jaw-dropper, the unicorn from Scripture. The posters promised magic, but it was usually a one-horned goat or a rhinoceros. Either way, one horn, and technically not a lie. Barnum knew exactly what he was doing. Unicorn simply means one horn. He never promised a mythical beast, just a spectacle. And crowds came in droves. Over a century later, Ringling Brothers tried the same gimmick using a single-horned goat in the 1980s. This time, it caused outrage. Fraud, they said. But it was the same sleight of hand, just with more cameras and fewer illusions. Critics completely missed the point. A circus isn't biology class. It's smoke and mirrors. If you bought a ticket expecting a fairy tale, you were probably part of the show. Barnum wasn't lying. He was performing. That unicorn wasn't a con. It was a lesson in pure showmanship. A grin, a nod, and a wink straight to the camera before the curtain dropped. Number 2. Rosita Royce. Rosita Royce didn't simply strip on stage, she let birds do it for her. Born Marjorie Rose Corrington in 1918, she grew up in a middle-class Lincoln household, the daughter of a dentist. She trained in dance, possibly under Ruth St. Denis, and may have toured with Earl Carroll's Vanities, though her early resume remains a little blurry. What isn't blurry is the act that made her unforgettable, the Dance of the Doves. Draped in a flowing costume, she appeared on stage surrounded by trained lovebirds. One by one, the birds plucked away her garments. No strings, no devices, just finely rehearsed instinct. She performed it at the 1939 New York World's Fair and later in the 1953 burlesque film Strip-O-Rama. Audiences adored it, and newspapers couldn't get enough of the feather-filled spectacle. Her career, sadly, was brief. Rosita died of cancer in 1954. While others leaned on shock value, she built an act of timing, grace, and sheer originality. Still one of burlesque's strangest, most elegant creations. Number 1. Spessardy's Bears. Freak shows weren't always about individuals born different or sculpted into curiosities by ambitious promoters. Sometimes the spectacle came as a family affair, and in this case, a family and their bears. Originally from Hungary, the Spessiert family anglicized their name to Spessardy and built a traveling act that shifted between a modest circus and a full-blown menagerie. Some seasons featured lions and tigers, but what really captivated crowds were the bears, dancing, riding, snarling their way across American vaudeville. Their first big splash came at London's Greater Britain exhibition in 1899 before leaping across the Atlantic. Over the next decade, they toured from Coney Island's Luna Park to Boston's Keith's Theatre, even reaching Montreal. The Cambridge Tribune called them one of the most humorous and interesting acts in vaudeville back in 1905. The First World War shattered the troupe and their momentum, but only briefly. By 1928, the family took over France's Circus Pinder and transformed it into one of Europe's most successful touring shows. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.